Welcome to the clinical cookout. You know you need it, it's kinda scary, but mental health is necessary. Four educated queens taking the lead, hold their hands and they'll help you succeed. Lay your head back, relax, just like that. Now listen to, learn, and your problems will burn away. Cookout, you know, we got just what you need. At the cookout, your heart and mind we will be. At the cookout.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. We are qualified clinicians who will cover various topics on mental health and will sometimes provide community resources. We are not being paid by any organization for our content, and any information we provide is general and pertains to our own personal experiences. We do not provide psychotherapy, diagnoses, or treatment recommendations on air. Any concerns related to your individual mental health should be directed to your medical and mental health professionals. We are not responsible for others' decisions or the subsequent consequences.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Clinical Cookout. This month, April, is the month of the military child. So we decided to put a little focus on military children and their mental health. And up first is our hot sauce, of course. For the hot sauce, my question is specifically for Black military, which 3 of us on this panel are associated in some way with the military, and we are Black women. How does being a Black child in the military affect our children when it comes to their culture? Because oftentimes when we move around, we are in predominantly white spaces. Our children typically go to school with more white children, things like that. They're just in it's different from growing up in your hometown where you know it might be more diverse. So how do you think that specifically affects Black children? Do Black children lose their culture because they are military children?
I say yes and no. Am I allowed to do that? Or do I have to pick an answer?
Gotta go to a side. Stop being lukewarm.
So I can only speak for my child, or my children. My daughter's older, so she's been through 2 moves already, or 2 relocations. And each time she was in those predominantly white spaces. And I like it because she's learning about different cultures. So let me clarify, when we were in Hawaii, I didn't send her to a military daycare. I sent her to a daycare which was like predominantly Hawaiian. In Hawaii, it's way more diverse. It's not just white or Black. Like there are a lot of different cultures there. She was in a Hawaiian daycare, so she learned about that culture, and I really enjoyed that. I really liked her learning the language, learning about the history there. It was just a whole different space. And then coming here to Virginia, she is in a predominantly white school. And I don't think she's losing her culture because she still is, like, we are a Black family, and our Black families, that's our culture. She spends time with families from both sides. We're all Black, so she still gets that. It's just when she's at school or when she's doing her activities, she's mostly around white people. I just think it makes her more well-rounded. I don't see it being an issue of losing culture.
So it's tough for me. So I know that was one of the things me and Elijah, my husband, worried about the most. We were like, when we move places, especially if we do stay on base, will these kids be around kids that look like them? Because yes, they are in a Black family, so they always gonna have their culture. We have to teach them that as parents, but it's more so the idea of what they get to experience. Like they won't have the same experiences we had, not just because they're military kids, but because of what they're growing up around, their peers in school. And my oldest has been through 7 moves. She's been through 7 moves. So every time we moved, we started to realize, it's always so hard to find like where the Black people are or where the people of color are, where the diversity is. So we made it a point as she got older and got up in school to try to find those spaces. It was like, look, we got to find a church that's predominantly Black so she could be around other Black kids or something, because we noticed how it was starting to affect her to not be in a classroom and see somebody who looked like her. It was starting to affect her. Um, and then with my other kids, the problem of racism came in. So like that was the hard part. It's less about losing their culture and more about how will this affect them being around all these white students all the time and these other white kids. Because as adults, yeah, we could teach them whatever, but we know for kids developmentally, their peers have a big influence. So we purposely moved and said, where's the black neighborhoods? Where are the schools with more diversity? When we had this last move, even the kids was on the computer like, this school got 17% black people. Where's another one? Like they were doing that. So they wanted that. They wanted to be in class specifically with kids who look like them. And as military, that's hard sometimes.
Converting over to what right looks like, because what right looks like for our culture don't always look the same for every other culture. So then you try to teach your kids how to fit into this other mode because they're always in this other mode. So now you have to say, don't say that, don't talk like that. Why are you not speaking proper English? And that's not always associated with black people, but we do have African American vernacular English, and we do speak differently amongst ourselves than we do with the masses. So I think that a lot of kids struggle as they get older. You know what I mean? As they start getting older and they start going to schools with predominantly black people, they realize how different they really are. Like in Louisiana, the school that my kids go to is 49% black. Never have they ever experienced that. And so they're getting called white and they getting berated for just who they are. And if they didn't grow up in that system. So they're having to adapt. So now they had to learn how to code switch, but they didn't have to learn how to code switch to fit into the white culture. They had to learn how to code switch and fit into their own culture.
That's true.
Yeah, but code switching isn't necessary.
You said it's not necessary?
It is necessary for black people. I mean, it's something that we learn, whether you're code switching to fit in your culture or code switching to fit in another. We as black women have learned that over time. It's just we might not have been placed in a lot of situations when we were younger to have to code switch. We probably learned as we were getting older. Because I know for me, I was among black people for almost all of my childhood. So once I became an adult and I went to a PWI, I had to learn myself, like, oh shit, that don't work here. I'm gonna have to switch it up a little bit. So even though they do have to fit into the mold of or whatever culture they're living around at the time, that still is teaching them a very necessary skill for success as a black person in this country.
Yeah, and that's undeniable. It's just when you actually have to teach your kids that this is actually your culture. That's not your culture, right?
Yeah.
That's the difference. Is you have to teach them how to live in another culture, but having to teach them how to come back and be around your family members is not ideal. Nobody wants to do that. And then especially if you spent your whole entire career overseas, it definitely looks different when they go home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just thought of a situation with Mila, with my oldest, because for the most part, she seems like okay, but she's also young. So at this age, all the kids are like, "You're my friend. We're all friends." Ha ha ha. But there was a situation where I put her into cheerleading when we were living in Northern Virginia, and it was mostly black kids. It was like a I don't know, some kind of like grant program or something that I applied for and ended up getting her into. And now that I think about it, she was extremely uncomfortable in that situation. Like those kids were like loud and they were like, cussing and doing all this and like their facial expression, just the way that they communicated with each other. And she doesn't communicate like that. So she was kind of like, it started to become like a fight to get her to go. And now I didn't think about it until we started talking about this. I'm like, maybe that's why it was uncomfortable for her being in that setting. Not to say anything bad about black people. I love us. I love how we communicate, how we can just be open and loud and it don't even matter. But it was uncomfortable for her. And now I'm seeing that, like, I didn't force her to continue going. I did allow her to stop. But that makes a lot of sense. Like, she just wasn't comfortable in that environment. So I agree with Shug a little bit on that.
Definitely do. I'm telling you, I'm gonna just go for it here. One of the biggest concerns that Elijah had, well, it wasn't the biggest concern, but it was a concern. He was like, our kids are probably gonna end up dating or marrying white girls and white boys because that's all they're around. They're not gonna bring home one of their own. And it's not that we have any problem with interracial dating or marriage. It's just they don't even get the chance. They don't get the chance to really they meet more kids that don't look like them. So that is what they're going to end up connecting with the most. And that was something we seriously talked about. We seriously had to talk about it. And it was like, well, we can't help that a lot of the military installations are in these specific spaces. We can't help that the military itself has far more white people than other cultures. Like that's just the numbers. We can't do anything about that. But that was a concern. And it was like, well, if they do you love who you love, trying to look at it that way. He was like, yeah, but I would be lying if I said I didn't want my daughter to bring a black boy home. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I would be lying if I said otherwise. And with our oldest, we really were like, yeah, that's gonna be her. But turns out no. She specifically was like, no, I want my culture. Like that's what I want. So I need to be able to find that. And it was just an interesting conversation. The little things that people don't even think about are the things that come up when you are a black child in the military.
I think that conversation can go on and on and on. Even outside of the military. Um, Obviously, we all have our own thoughts on that, but we want to focus on the military child. It's the month of the military child. So let's get into our actual episode where we are celebrating the military child, talking about the military child, and just big ups to military children who have some tough scenarios throughout their lives. So let's get into it.
At the cookout, you know, we got just what you need. At the cookout, your heart and mind, we will be.
All right, y'all. So we talked about the military child on our hot sauce, and a part of our main dish is really to get into the military child. Like we're gonna go into the moves, the mental health, everything that affects them. So I will go first because I actually wrote a book about it. Okay, shameless plug in my Ashley voice. Y'all see that? A different me, socially awkward. So what I do want to talk about, that book is not about just being socially awkward, but it's about feeling different in your own skin. And a lot of times military children feel different because they don't have the same experiences as other kids have. So the social anxiety part comes in with consistently moving, constantly having to meet new people, having to go to different countries, having to adapt to different cultures, and not really knowing the culture. And then, coming back to your own culture, you don't know who you are in your own culture because you've been immersed in another culture so much. And so they spend a lot of time trying to find out who they are. How am I supposed to talk? How am I supposed to sound? When people ask me where I'm from, what am I supposed to say? Because a lot of times they don't have anything to say because they're from all over. Prime example, my daughter came to Louisiana talking about, I'm from England. People were like, stop lying. You're not from England. But of course, she was born and raised there. So that's where she's from. She knows the British culture. They've been totally immersed in culture. They've traveled Europe. Literally, they've been to over 23 countries. So it's hard for them to just come to Louisiana or wherever else in America and say, I'm from here, or, I grew up in Hawaii. And then people are already on you because you're too light, you're too dark. Your parents look like this, your siblings look like this, but now you speak like this, and now you're not from here. And so just constantly have to fit into different cultures is definitely anxiety provoking. So then you get social anxiety with the military children.
So we're a military family too, and my kids have a similar experience, but different. So, Auntie Shu's kids, they were born in other places. My kids have not been out of the country, but we've moved around, like I said, in the hot sauce 7 times within the United States. And for them, something that I see that they've experienced is other children feeling like, oh, y'all think y'all better. You think you're better. because your dad's in the military, and especially with their dad being an officer in the military, it's like this air that people feel like these kids have, and they don't. It's like, y'all think y'all better, y'all talk like this, or just because your dad in the military, oh, y'all must be rich. It's this idea that people have about military kids that really affects how military kids think and feel about themselves. Like, do I act that way? Why am I so different? Why is it so hard for me to adjust sometimes? And like my oldest daughter, a recent experience she had was, I feel like I'm behind because like I don't seem to be doing the same things that other teenagers my age are doing. And it's just an interesting dynamic, and I think that does cause them some social anxiety. It makes it hard for them to like make friends unless they're super, super outgoing, because they're always in a position where they're the new kid. Like, a lot of us don't know how it feels to be the new kid all the time. And these are it at specific moments in their life. Like, my daughter was the new kid her freshman year of high school. Imagine how hard that is. Like, high school, that's already a transition. And now you the new kid, it can be tough on them. And they have, I noticed with my own kids, they have like emotional outbursts here and there. And I'm like, where is that coming from? Like, what is going on? But then I have to realize it could just be compounded from all of this that you've already experienced at such a young age.
Let me correct myself. 13 different countries. That's me that been to 23.
Well, excuse us. Either way, they at the top of the damn list with how many
I mean,
countries they done been to.
I mean, the kids already been to more countries than me, so hell, it don't matter.
Same here. No, but I agree with both of y'all. I also think that there are kids that it affects in terms of social anxiety or just anxiety in general. And then there are kids who are really resilient and adapt very quickly. So my daughter is one of those. She adapts super quick. There may be a little increased anxiety the first time we move somewhere, or the first time she tries something new, which I think is pretty typical for kids. But for some reason, like, I admire her because she will just hop in and go. She takes off. So like we've moved one, two, three different times. And each time in the beginning, it's just like, okay, I'm going to a new school. I have to meet new friends. I'm a little nervous. Oh my gosh. Gets to the school, and then she comes home talking about the 5 to 6 different friends that she made that day. Friends for elementary school. But even then, she has not had any trouble with adjusting to the move. She's one of those that can adapt very quickly. Now, when it comes to the transition when dad leaves, that's different. With dad as a service member, she does not adjust to that very well. So that's where those emotional outbursts come in. And sometimes I don't even make the connection. And then I realize, oh my God, he's been gone for 2 weeks. That's why her ass is over here flipping out on me. She doesn't even know that it's happening. So I just want to say that not all military kids get extremely anxious or have a really hard time with those transitions. Some of them adjust pretty well. And then for some of them, it's just a little bit more difficult.
That's definitely true. And I think that also comes with age. Like, your daughter is younger right now. When my kids were younger, oh, they loved moving. They loved being in a new house. Oh, we get to be in a new place and see new things and get a new house and meet new people. They loved it. It didn't affect my oldest until we left, when she had to go to high school. We left and she had to start high. And she was like, my best friends are here and I've been with them for 4 years. Like, I don't want to do this. That was the first time she didn't want to leave. And then she got to the new place, did ninth grade, and then she didn't want to leave there because she can make friends. She's a people person. But it was like, I don't want to keep doing this. It was really starting to bother her. Like, I'm tired. And so I was like, we done. We done. I can't do it anymore.
And speaking of that, what are y'all's thoughts on? Because I'm actually considering this. Because we're talking about how the moving can affect your kids, especially in terms of school. So I want my daughter to finish where she's at right now, at least fifth grade, right? But to do that, that would require me staying here while my husband goes to the next duty station. Me staying here at least until it's time for her to like start middle school. So what are your thoughts on families that do that? Because I know that probably have either of you done that before, or what do you think?
I would never.
Who, you know what? I would have said I would never. But like I said now, That is literally what's about to happen for us. I am no longer making another move. Where we are now is where I'm choosing to say this is forever home for us. But their dad is not done with his military career. He will likely get a different duty station than where we are right now and be somewhere else. But we agreed early on, when the first child gets to high school, I am stationary. We have to have stability for high school. We agreed to that. So that'll be my first experience. Right now he's away, and when he come back, he might not get stationed where we are. And that's just something we're gonna have. It's a new endeavor.
I want to hear why would never. I actually
'Cause
gave her a reason why.
I
I
know
want to hear
better.
why Suge.
Because I
Okay,
know
let's
what
go
I'm
back.
looking at.
Go
I
back
know
to
what I
that.
see. It's not a good look. It's never worked out. So I'll say this. The military member, those who are committed to who they with and their families, have a very hard time being away from their families. Because now I'm out here in the world and my people, my nucleus that I come home to, are not going to be there. But now I'm out here in the world and it's a whole lot of world out here. And everybody does their own thing when they're away if they get lonely or tired enough. And it's human nature for people to wander around. And I think that it sends a message, and it depends on the family. It's totally dependent on the family. But what I've seen is that it sends a message that we're not for you, we don't support you. You go do you, and we're gonna stay here and go do us. And I've never seen it. I've never seen it successful. That's me. That's with the whole I'm gonna let you PCS and go all around, and we're gonna stay here. That's not it. So for me, my kids' home is where I am, first, last, and always. But we're also a tight family, first, last, and always. So I just haven't seen it successful, and it's been 20 years.
Hopefully it's successful for us, because I can't do it. And it's not even just me. Elijah is he's one of those fathers that puts, if we talk about children's mental health, he gonna put their mental health first. He saw how detrimental that last move was for Zeph, and that was it. He was like, no, we can't do it to her. She got too
Some
much
people, as they
potential
get
for us.
later in their career, they
Yeah.
do it and but there's an end goal. But somebody
Mhm.
mid-career, it depends on where you are in your career too. I don't want to just
Oh,
be somebody mid-career. I haven't seen it successful. I will not go back on that. It is what it is. Somebody gonna have to swallow that and eat it. But
baby, I wouldn't have done
um,
it before now. Ain't no way. I
yeah,
would. We
mid-career is weird. Now, late career people do it and they have an end game and they're like, I'm coming back. I'm going for a year. I'm coming back. I'm doing this
yeah,
for 2 years. I'm gonna do a short tour. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna come back. But that
yeah,
whole mid-career, you go do you and we go do us. People do them and you gonna do you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's my situation. It's more of like, do I want to pick these kids up and PCS for a 9 month duty station, like move our whole lives for 9 months, or do I just want to stay here for those 9 months and then go to the next place that we're going for the extended like 3 to 4 years? But it's just it's a hard decision to make because yeah, like Auntie Shook said, you have to consider your partner and the actual service member and how they're going to feel, but also consider your kid. Like navigating that as a spouse is also extremely difficult. So
Yep, yep.
yeah.
Well, to shift gears a little bit, to give us something to really dig into as far as the mental health of military children, I'm gonna give us some findings. And these findings are from the CDC, the Surgeon General report, and the Blue Star Families Organization reports from surveys that they do. So let's see. Military children are more likely than their civilian peers to experience financial instability, food shortages, or housing instability, and to have parents or caregivers who are frontline workers, which all put them at risk for poor mental health. 43% of adults in the military parents rated at least one of their children's mental health as fair, poor, or very poor. 41% rated their oldest adolescent child's mental health as poor or very poor, implying that parents perceive that their older children might be experiencing greater challenges than their younger children. 23% with at least one child enrolled in grades K through 12 reported that at least one child was currently receiving mental health care. And 16% with at least one child in K through 12 reported that they would like their child to receive mental health care, but such care was not being provided. The major reasons included challenges finding an available provider who would treat their child, trouble finding time for an appointment or finding childcare for the other children, concerns about the effectiveness of treatment, and delays while their child was waitlisted for services.
Now that's the question I got. Like, why is it like that? And like, what would be the causes of that? Like, what? Like, I'm not. I mean, I understand how this country treats our veterans and our, soldiers and stuff. But you would think that's like after, like, way after the military. But the children, like, I don't know. That I didn't. I guess I was kind of shocked by those stats, and I wasn't expecting that.
I just wonder if we are like civilians are a little bit less likely to take their kids to therapy, and a lot of times less likely to admit that their kids have mental health problems. It's more so get over it. Where I think in the military things are hyper pounded into. Like we're it's more hype. There's more hyper awareness. Like your kids might have some problems. We move a lot, we do this a lot, and then there's a lot more opportunity to be engaged in things that civilians are just not engaged in.
Yeah, but I mean, according to the stats, military kids not getting adequate mental health care either.
Do you think it's because of stigma in the military?
There's stigma too in the military.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys?
For some reason, I thought you were saying that they're more likely to have mental health problems.
Well, from the stats, they are likely to have mental health problems, but they are also more likely to not get adequate care, which for some people, that's like, how? Y'all got insurance. Like, why is this such a problem for the military? This shouldn't even be an issue. These kids should be able to get the adequate mental health care that they need, but according to the stats, they don't for various reasons.
It's not about the insurance coverage, or even like there's a stat in there about financial issues and not having adequate housing or food. Even though those things are provided by the military, with the military, you do get a housing allowance that is supposed to pay for your housing. And you also do get TRICARE, which a lot of your health care is free. But I don't think it's the question of what is being provided. I think it's the parents, the caregivers, and like what they are taking advantage of or not taking advantage of. So, you come into the military at different ranks, and excuse me if I'm not using the right terms, y'all, because I am not the service member. I am just the spouse. But you come in at different ranks, right? And so a lot of the soldiers that come in enlisted, they're coming in either straight from high school or they're just very young, right? And they may have kids when they come in or they may not. But they might not have the, let's say, education in terms of financial literacy to be able to manage the money that they're about to make a little bit better. Or they may not come in understanding what benefits they have through TRICARE. Maybe for them, it's just, this is medical. I can go and get whatever I need and that's it. And they're not thinking of mental health care. So if they don't have the education in these areas, then they're not going to use it appropriately. So basically what I'm saying is it's not about what is being provided. It's about the person being educated on what resources they have. So yes, you get insurance. Yes, you have mental health care wrapped into that. But if you don't know about benefits, if you don't know anything about insurance, you're not going to use it. And so your kids are not going to have access to it. So I think that comes with like education from like your families. It goes deeper than just the military, but education from your families. Did your parents teach you how to use your money correctly? Did they teach you how to manage your money? Or are you just supposed to learn that from the military, from a class that they give you whenever you enter? Or did your parents teach you about how to, figure out what your insurance benefits are? Because that's something I ain't learned until an adult. I was like, wait a minute, there are different things that I can get, and there's a deductible or there's not a deductible. Like, what is all of this stuff? So if you didn't learn that stuff growing up and you're expected to learn that from a class when you enter the military, like, that's just not feasible. So that's why a lot of kids don't have access to these things. It's not that they don't have it. It's just that maybe their parents don't know or don't know how to access it or don't know what resources they have to get that care.
That's
Okay.
a mic drop.
Yeah.
Is
But
that a mic drop? Did I just do my first mic drop?
you did.
Oh shit now.
You did. But I gotta come back though, because yes, that is true. That could be true. That's one of the factors. But then what do you say to the reasons being, I have other children that need childcare, so I can take this child to the appointment? Waitlisted. I know my personal experience with my daughter, it took us months to get her in for a particular appointment. Months. And it was like, she really needs this. And they were like, well, this what we got. And then you always can't take them to an off-post provider, because if they don't take TRICARE, you coming out of pocket. So there are other issues aside from just parents maybe came in young and don't know and don't understand insurance. It's also the idea of these wait lists can be long, and they long for civilians.
Oh,
But
that's what I was going to say.
military doesn't get priority. It's like, oh, you military, you get to get, no. She was waitlisted for months for something she really needed. And then the concerns about the effectiveness of treatment. People are like, are y'all getting effective treatment, or do y'all just, they tell y'all to list the doctors or people that y'all can see and that's it? And if they not good, oh well, you can't go out of network.
So what I did want to say about that is mental health and treatment and getting in this waiting list is long countrywide. There's also a stimulant shortage countrywide. Mental health is a fairly new wave, especially for military, especially for civilians. It's a very new wave, period. So what you have is a lot of people just trying to make it work. And everybody is going to go in any office and say, my kid really needs this. What's wrong with y'all? Then who's the priority? So it's really hard to it's just really hard to navigate through, I think, right now with the mental health period, and especially for kids, because I think unless you have some expertise in that area, a lot of people don't even understand mental health for children. We still trying to navigate around that. People think if your bills are paid, you don't have no bills as a child, then what you mad about? That's still the mentality.
I had a question for y'all. When it comes to like now that y'all are all in the military and experienced the military, and your children are pretty much experiencing along with you, do any of you guys think, and you might not know this answer right now, but do any of you guys think that any of your children will go off into the military? Or have you ever
Nope.
asked them?
Nope. All of mine said they will not. They will not.
I hope
When
mine do.
I hope none of mine do. I would be okay. I would be proud of them if they made the choice. I hope they don't make the choice. And as of right now, none of them want to. There was a time when my oldest son was like, I'm gonna be just like dad and I'm gonna go to the military. And now he like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. So I'm actually okay with it.
I don't, mine are very young, so I don't know. But I don't care. I want them to pick whatever they think is going to be fulfilling for their life, whatever is going to give them meaning or purpose. If they choose the military, I'm cool with that. If they choose something else, I'm cool with that as well. Um, but I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I wonder what it is that they're going to decide to do. But I also wonder what being in the military, what opportunities it is going to open up for my kids as well to do whatever they want to do in life and to make whatever choice they want to make in terms of their future.
So I would love for mine to make the choice. Number one, because everybody was making the choice to go to college whenever they were graduating, and they had everything to say about me being like, I want to go into the military. And I'm looking back like, maybe you should have made the choice. And you know why? Because up to a master's degree, paid for, experiences that a lot of people won't even think about, can't even fathom, done, paid for. You know what I mean? Like there's this thing that happens when you join, like growing up a little bit earlier than everybody else, having access to financial literacy. A lot of us are still learning from our parents who had no financial literacy because we don't have anybody else to say, hey, here's this free class, let me teach you. It all depends on what you take from it. I don't think that college is the route for everybody. I think that sometimes people go to college and realize I only went because everybody else told me that I had to go. So for me, I was like, I hate everybody here. I don't want to stay here. I want to see new people, meet new people, and I don't like school right now. But I'm smart enough to just pass it without even barely doing the work and pass this test to get in here and actually get paid a decent salary, live a college student life with money. So if my kids get to have that opportunity, I will never slam nothing like that. And then if you get to, it teaches leadership. It teaches they get there's stability, there's housing stability, there's things that you don't have that they will never have to worry about if they make that choice. The other people are going to be struggling working a 9 to 5 just to stay alive to make that choice. And there's discipline. I know there's things that some members do before 9 o'clock that people ain't did all day long or all week long. So it's a beautiful thing, and it depends on their choice. If they decide to make that choice, it's a very personal choice, and it's never a bad one.
Agreed. I hope they don't. I want them to do whatever they want to do, but I hope they don't because I could sit up here and ramble off all the benefits of it, and there are ample benefits. But I've also seen the downside of it, and people don't like to talk about the downsides of the military because they focus on the benefits, and the benefits are awesome: travel, education opportunities, all that, awesome. So if they choose it, I'm gonna ride with my kids no matter what they do. But I don't want that for them. I don't want that for them. I will support them all the way, but I don't because of the other side of things, the things that I see, particularly Black military go through, the things that I see they struggle with that other people don't struggle with. I don't want that for them. But I'm gonna rock with them either way.
Are you talking about like the cultural thing? Like
That's
when you
exactly. I,
say
I was gonna say like
like
go into that a little bit so that everybody can
yeah.
understand.
The just the culture of the military. Um, like for example, their dad, like I said, he's an officer in the military. A Black officer in the military, that's a different life. He has experienced some things that I would never want my kids to experience in that vein. I don't want them to feel like sometimes I have to do what's not okay just to just to push through and make it. I don't want that. And I'm being very vague with that because I'm being careful, but I I don't want certain things for them when it comes to the culture of the military because there is a culture of the military, especially when we consider for I got two girls. And yes, women can serve just as well as a man can, and there are phenomenal women in the military, but I don't want that for my girls because it is, I don't care what we say, it's a misogynistic culture in a lot of ways still. It's a culture that is tough for women to make it through. Not to say that they can't, but it's hard, and there's some things that go down that everybody want to sweep under the rug and not talk about, and I just don't want that for my babies. Even with all the benefits are phenomenal, but we can't ignore the other side of things.
No, and that's gonna be civilian culture and military culture.
The
You can't have
military
a
is a microcosm
misogynistic.
of the regular world. I always say that, yes,
Yeah,
but
that's it. Misogynistic culture comes from the regular
from
world.
the world. But I mean, it's just things I've heard from other military members when and working with clients who are military members. My husband being open with me about certain things that he's experienced. I'm just like, yeah, I don't, I'd rather not. But if they choose to, I'm a rock with them.
Yeah. I mean, I can see where there are advantages and disadvantages to joining the military. And like I said, for me, I don't have an opinion when it comes to my kids. I can't control what they choose or don't choose, and I'm not going to be the parent to try to guide their life a certain way. So I am just going to like sit back, kind of see what happens. The experiences we've had as a family. I don't know if a lot of these experiences would have been available to us had we not been a military family. I feel like the military has done a lot for our family, and I'm thankful for it and grateful for the opportunities and the ones that are soon to come. But with that, I'm gonna circle back to my question that we skipped over, so we can do that to end it out. But what I guess advice, suggestions, tips, techniques, whatever you want to say, in terms of families who are in the military, things they can do to help their child with adjusting to a lot of these transitions and relocations, or even like friends or clients that you worked with? Like, what are some strategies or techniques that you guys use or would recommend?
So one of the biggest things that I have is your family is your family style. You know what I mean? Like what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. Like you do whatever is good for your family. You do whatever is gonna work like for your kids as far as moving, mental health, being away from dad or mom, because it's not only dads. And just kind of helping them navigate through those. We read a lot of books. There's a daddy doll, y'all. There's a daddy doll. Um, or a mommy doll too, like that you could put the heads, it's free. Sorry. You could put the face of your member on a doll so that whenever they're away, they can squeeze that doll at night and stuff like that, and they feel like they're still connected to their parent. And it's actually a free service. You can go get from like the military family resourceful units or whatever. And I know everybody calls them different things. Um, and then there's also MFLEX, Military Family Life Consultants. So I did want to clear up a myth. Everybody has access to Military Family Life Consultants. They're free. They don't take notes. And you actually can send your kids there. They put the kids in school and they're embedded in work systems. So everybody has access to mental health. Whether you tend to use it or not is up to you.
I would say try to strengthen your support system. Like make sure your support system is intact with other family members, with friends, because as you move, you in new places where you don't know people. So if you have a good support system for those kids, that's good. Like for example, when we move, my mom tends to come like right when we move or at some point early on, and that's a constant for them. They know TT gonna come see us in this new place, and we'll have grandma for a little bit, like for a week or two. So if you could build your support system up, um, take advantage of the free things. Like I didn't know for the longest time. I found out after 4 kids that when you get to a new military installation, childcare is free at first. Like they give you free childcare to get settled in. Like you can take them to the base childcare center and it's free. And I'm like, what? Didn't nobody tell me that this whole time? And I was like, maybe I just didn't hear it or I don't remember.
Hell, I
But
ain't know that. You gonna have to send me that resource. You gonna have to tell
yes,
me. We're gonna talk about that later.
yes, for a little
It's called
period of
Child
time
Care
while
for
you are
PCS.
adjusting. What is it?
It's called Child Care for PCS. So I used to work at the AFRC, y'all. It's called Child Care for PCS, where you get a certain amount of months free, a free child care just so that you can handle appointments and everything like that. And if you have a child with special needs, you also get respite care every month. So you get a certain amount of time off, and they prioritize if your kid sprained his finger versus the kid that has cerebral palsy. Don't go in there complaining because they're gonna give the kid with cerebral palsy more child care. But they give respite care for the parent so that the parent can have time off and that they don't have to struggle with this child the whole time, especially while members are deployed or TDY and stuff like that.
Yeah, so see, that's what I was saying. Like, all these resources are here, but if you don't know about them, you ain't gonna use them. I ain't know about that, so I'm gonna have to make sure I tap into that. For me, I think one of the things I do with my kid, and my kids are younger, so I haven't gotten to the teenage years. Y'all have, so y'all got a little bit more up on me on that. But a lot of it is about just advanced warning with things, so letting them know what's to come. I know that my daughter gets her anxiety from me. She gets very anxious with the unknown, and in the military, we don't always know like a particular date that something's happening or, things change. But in general, I do talk to my kids and say, you know what? And it could be like next year. I'll say, you know what? Next year, y'all, we're coming up on this. This is what's going to be happening. Do y'all have any questions? And really talk to them. They are 8 years old and 4 years old. So I know a lot of parents will be like, they're young. They don't need to know. But they have questions. Like when I sit down and talk to them, they really do actually have questions. Like my 4 year old was asking me, like, when we go, like, is it going to be just me, you, and da or is daddy coming? Or like he had questions and he's 4, right? So I do talk to them and let them know like what's to come. just so that when the time comes, it's not like we're just up and moving. That's what works for my kids. There may be some families where if you tell your kids too far ahead of time, then they're super anxious for like the whole year. So you have to figure out what works for your family, whether it needs to be just a quick, let's do it type of thing, or whether your kids need prep before whatever it is that's about to happen.
You know what? I'm gonna add something because you said me and Auntie Suge got teenagers now, and you're not there yet. So I'm gonna add something for people with teenagers specifically. My daughter, when we made the move going into coming, oh, after ninth grade, we made the next move, and she was starting 10th grade somewhere new. She said, I said, well, what do you want to do? I said, ideally, if you could do what you wanted to do right now, what would you do? And she said, it doesn't matter what I want to do. I don't have a choice. I have no control. We gonna do what y'all want to do. If y'all want to move, we moving, and that's it. And I was like, so you have no control. You feel out of control, like you just following along and you have no say. So I started to try to give my kids say in certain things. Like y'all get say in, maybe what community we live in, what school you want to go to in a new place. If you want to look into researching schools, like give your teenagers especially a little bit of power and control in certain decisions because they feel like I just have nothing. Like I have to do whatever my military parent has to do for work and I can't say anything. I can't be sad about it because then they might get upset. Like she felt like she couldn't be sad. Like I can't be sad because we got to go anyway. And that's going to make y'all upset if I'm sad. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You get to have your emotions. Like you get to have that. So just make sure to give your teenagers especially that space and that control where you can give it to them and some options.
That's the kind of part I wanted to add. I know I'm not a military spouse or a part of the military, but I do work with children. And I think as a civilian, it kind of gives me the perspective of just giving military children grace because they've had to have to transition a lot more than probably civilian children. And it's also important to consider the certain type of environments that they've been in, which could be very different or could affect them differently. So, I guess for us civilian folks, my advice would be to have some grace for military children. Extend that warm hand because oftentimes they're coming from different places and have to integrate back into society sometimes with us. And I just think it's important to be aware of that. So thank y'all for serving our country. Even if you're not a service member, even if you're a spouse, you still serve this country because you're giving up your time and your energy. And
Keish, I wanted to piggyback on that because I want everybody to look at their schools that they do send their kids to. And a lot of times they have programs for military kids so that military kids who come from wherever can connect in one spot. So it might be like on a Friday, right before breakfast. They might get pulled out of class and have like military lunches, military dinners. There's days that service members can go take off the morning or for an hour and actually go sit and have breakfast with their kids. And everybody can kind of meet other family members. So I thank you for saying that because I think the civilians are trying to make it a little bit more connected. They're trying to make military kids feel a little bit more connected. All right, so thank y'all so much. What we really want is to respect the military child, to respect military families. We want everybody to gain from this. If you know a military member that could benefit from this episode, please share it with them because we have 4 very different perspectives and they're all good and they're all informed. And so we just hoping that everybody gains from this. So with that said, my only question now is what y'all about to do?